a level of skill and capacity that is proven out in all the case studies that we've shown you. You'll also likely need to leverage whatever other sources of money are out there as well. It's not just private philanthropy, but foundations like the Ford Foundation have made one of their top priority initiatives for the next couple of years the creation of new cultural arts centers as the economic regenerators of urban places. And when I say urban, I just mean, generally urban to the scale that you are. And they are deeply committed to this notion that the arts become major attractors of both talent but also investment, because they continue to feed that vibrancy that more and more demographic trends point to. People want to be in center locations. They want culture, vibrancy, activities all hours of the day. So clearly from an overall feasibility standpoint, cultural arts have always proven to be important pieces of creating economic value. I know that's a lot of jargon, but if you want to create an economically viable mixed-use project on a site that serves diverse needs and provides for the affordable housing that is in your zoning code, that provides for public places, that provides for a series of other public benefits, you need to have drivers of revenue. And so cultural arts uses are proven to create a premium in real estate values proximate to them. Obviously we talked about leadership. Philanthropy is a big opportunity. We did a roundtable of some cultural arts leadership in New York earlier this summer, and one of the key findings was that film, as opposed to the 1,000-seat Roadhouse, film venues or music venues are much easier to do, much more profitable, and just much less risky. And so we've heard a lot of interest about renewing the presence of film right in the downtown, and whether it's a Jacob Burns type facility or something else is to be determined, but clearly there is a little bit of potential sort of competition from other places. Again, you saw some of the very high capital costs, the upfront costs of creating some of these bigger facilities, 70 million, 35 million, 25 million. These are very expensive facilities to build. So we'll look at a range of what might be possible on the site, but again, more conversation and more dialogue with you about what makes sense. And again, to the extent that cultural arts and or structured parking become part of a plan either on this site or elsewhere, within the village to support that overall vision, those are the kinds of projects that don't necessarily have to be paid for by the village, don't have to be paid for necessarily by a private developer, but are often available and are very frequently funded by federal transportation and other federal grants for, again, for supporting public benefit projects. So John and his team have put together some conceptual scenarios that try to codify some basic principles. And again, we put this out tonight to start a dialogue with you to see if we've been off base in our interpretation of some of the work that has been done in the past. But I just want to reiterate that what we're about to show you are not our 4 proposed redevelopment scenarios. These are purely illustrative diagrams to get you thinking specifically about the program, but also the placement on the site of things, and get your reactions to, I don't like that at all. Yeah, that seems to work. That would be additive. That would be something that enhances. So I'm going to give it back to John so walk you through a set of diagrams that both deal with the public realm, but also the way that development could fit on the site.
Okay, I'll just go through quickly. This is just a recap of some of the principles we showed earlier. Again, we want to emphasize activity on Main Street. We want to make sure that there's a connection to other parts of Nyack, either to the waterfront or point south. That to create the RTP Way or the extension of Bird Street seemed to be a very logical way to incorporate traffic needs through the site. We know that the bus turnaround is in that area as well, to have that in the back. And then looking at ways to accommodate this underground stream. As Jim said, we can't build on it. It is an easement that needs to be maintained. So it does become, in essence, a gap in the site. And then making sure that in each one of these spaces, both the public space around the perimeter, that we are providing activity, making sure that it's a lively downtown street, that it is something that you all can be proud of as being part of Nyack. So we went through several site configurations. Again, these are only diagrams. This is our attempt at trying to put all the pieces. We're trying to make a cake. These are the ingredients that we're trying to put in, and you can have a really nice cake, or you may have a different type of cake, or a pie, or a cupcake. So in this case, this is just to show you, this is the existing configuration of the site. The M&T Bank here on the corner, the existing river space theater volume, and then the two-story retail that's half up, half down on Main Street. Veterans Park here in the corner, and then the current parking lot that sort of separates M&T and river space, and then the rear parking lot here in the back. The senior citizen housing and the night houses here. Again, not part of the site, so we want to make sure that everything we do has addressed all the site conditions. So the first option is to look at only developing the public land. In other words, as Jim had mentioned, the site has 3 owners. We wanted to see, let's first test what would happen if we only looked at development options on public land. Well, in terms of plan, unfortunately, because this area is taken by M&T Bank, this area is Millbrook's property, pretty much that's all you can build. And that's trying to keep the amount of parking that's on the site at the same ratio as you would need for existing uses on the site. Meaning that this little piece of retail, which is only about 3,000 square feet, is the gap that you currently have in terms of how much parking that you have versus in this lot, versus what you need to service both the river space theater, the existing retail, about 16,000 square feet. You can build an additional 3,000 square feet, and then you've maxed out your number of parking spaces for that space. It's kind of sobering if you only look at just using the public land. And that's what it would look like in an overview. Again, this little piece of retail would displace about 15 to 20 parking spaces, but there is a little bit more parking than what's required right now to service these uses, so that's really the limit of what you can build. Next, we looked at, well, now instead of just looking at the public space, what if we were able to engage and have the Millbrook option incorporated into the site? In other words, to take a look at river space and the retail in front, in addition to the public parking lot. And in this case, we did 2 things. One is we kept the existing footprint, or the shell of river space, and thought, well, instead of having one large theater, maybe we could take the existing building and divide it up into little pieces, either smaller cinema studio theaters, but still maintain a large lobby that you could use for larger events, and then structure that lobby so that you could also have a larger catered event or a different type of production. And in this case, it does allow you to do some other things in terms of the retail layout. The other thing we did was we imagined, what if we were able to make a much more robust park connection over the stream bed here along Bridge Street. And imagine maybe Veterans Park would be rebuilt or enhanced along this area. We feel that it not only would serve a way to connect the different points to the north and to the south, but perhaps there's a way to find a connection both in terms of the retail adjacent to it and maybe some connection with the new theater that could make it a much more active space. Something that is both a connection to across the neighborhoods of Nyack as well as to Main Street itself. That's what it looks like in plan. This is what it looks like in the overview. Here again you can see the existing river space volume. We add a little bit of space here to create a new lobby, a new front door that perhaps also reaches out to Main Street. You could imagine a marquee, an old-style marquee out there on Main Street. And then just as Jim had mentioned before, really maximizing ground floor retail to make that active as the other side of Main Street. And then perhaps look at options for residential development on top of that retail base. Again, in this case, we've kept M&T Bank as is, only looked at the option of the river space, the Millbrook site, coming into the development scheme.
This scheme requires 20 extra parking spaces that would have to be found somewhere.
Okay, so option 3 is the idea of doing something a bit more modest, that arts and media incubator. And the sense here is that if you were to take an area that's approximately the same size as the current river space theater volume, and then reorient it really to this new park area as well as to Main Street, you do increase the area of retail and development that could occur on the site, as well as if M&T Bank were able to be brought into the fold, that additional area could also go to development. And that looks like, in terms of the overview, like this. Again, we've tried to keep the scale of the development in keeping with the 3 or 4 story buildings across the street, focusing on ground floor retail. But here in this case, the new park would provide a direct connection to the activities that are also occurring in this new incubator space. This represents about 100,000 square feet of residential on top of retail. That's what we are limited to by current zoning, 100 units. So this would be sort of the maximum amount of residential you would get in this scenario.